Amazing. Thank you, Damien, for that warm introduction. And it's Alembic for all of you in the room who see the signage everywhere and want to know more. We'll have plenty of time after this talk to get more into that. But today, surrounded in one of my favorite environments and ways to kick off the new year at CES is to be surrounded by women doing the same thing. So walking the floor with the female quotient and getting to know these amazing, badass female leaders has been such a highlight, and I can't wait to get into the talk today, because as much as we're all walking around here being inspired and seeing the future in real time, I think the evolution of leadership is as important. And I'm really grateful to Mark and the Brand Innovators team for holding space for us to have some real talk. So I'd like everybody to introduce themselves and to really just help this audience understand. We all see your fancy titles and the names, but we want to hear who you really are and maybe what sort of leadership, belief, or habit or trait defines how you lead, and maybe how that's changed since the early part of your career. So we'll just go right down the line, and we'll start with you, Kate.
Hey, great to be here. I'm Kate DuBois, Chief Client Officer at Starcom. Starcom is a global media agency as part of Publicis Group. My role is to ensure that our clients' business goals and objectives are met with all of the solutions that we bring, plus the solutions in the marketplace, and we're really driving down to those business outcomes. And to do that, my belief in leadership is it really starts at the foundation of trust. In order to be a steward, lead service, lead your teams, trust is so important. Throughout my career, I've always been attracted to digital innovation, what's next. And one of those things that always comes to mind is this idea of why not? Like, why can't we push the boundaries? Why can't we do things? So I'm always thinking about what are we not thinking of? What is on the horizon that we're not pushing on? So always with trust, but always with this curiosity and this mindset of why not in terms of how I lead.
Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. Laura Ness Owens. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Doosan Bobcat, most commonly references Bobcat companies, so construction equipment, landscaping equipment. Hopefully now you'll see it everywhere and you'll say, oh, I know that. I think kindness is at my core. We talked earlier about Midwest spirit, and I think for me, I really like to be a kindness champion, recognizing that we don't know what's going on with our employees, with our customers, but the best thing we can do is start with that heart and start with, knowing that we're all trying to do the right thing together. So I share your curiosity, and I think that there's a great big world out there, and events like this give us such a great opportunity to diversify our thought and see so many different ways of doing things. And if we can bring those back to our teams and to our partners in a way that is encouraging and is saying, how might we do these type of things, and giving them the power to do it is really important.
That's awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Beverly Jackson, and I lead brand and products marketing at Zillow. So when I think about the type of leader that I am, or the type of leader that I aspire to be, or how I want to show up, I think it's generally characterized by three archetypes or traits. And one of them is passion. And so I try to lead as passionately. I care about the work that I do. I want to focus the team and our intention and our efforts to serve our customers, to help people get home, which is what we live to do. And then I think the other one for me is authenticity. Like, if you're going to lead a team of people, you want to be authentic, and you want your voice to matter to them, and them to know that you care about them as the same that you care about your customers, or your goals and your KPIs and all the stuff that shows up on a spreadsheet somewhere. And then I think finally, I see myself very much as a servant-based leader. As much as I want to hit all my goals, and I want to get all my bonus, and I want my team and my company to be number one in every opportunity that they can, The reality is that we are growing people's careers. We're helping them to lead with purpose and to live in purpose. And so, to the extent that I can act as a servant to them and help them master their craft and become good at what they aspire to be, that gives me great joy. And I think, as we talked about sort of the Midwest values, the one thing that I'm hyper focused on of recent is the number of young people early on in their careers who don't necessarily have access to good leaders or access to career development and mentorship. And I spend a lot of time thinking about how to show up for Gen Z in a way that will matter for them so that they have an opportunity to do all this cool stuff that we're doing.
I love that. Hi, Lisa Vortsman. I'm the CMO of the Magnum ice cream company. We were just part of Unilever 2 weeks ago, so a very exciting time for the Magnum ice cream company. I have a secret passion for philosophy, so I tend to leverage a lot of philosophy principles to inspire my leadership style and how I show up. I'm a big believer of putting people in the right jobs at the right time to truly help unlock their talent. And that's where I think the business benefits. That's very much part of Plato's Republic for the other geeks out here who love philosophy. I think that's where society overall functions best, is when the right people are in the right jobs. Business grows, people grow, and they feed each other. My other philosophy reference, if you entertain me and humor me on that, is Marcus Aurelius, who very much believes that you have to take care of your own inner self first to truly show up as an authentic leader. And that is when people will follow you and be inspired by you. And I think there's a lot to be said when you look inside, you define your own values. It creates a sense of trust, I think you said earlier, and authenticity for sure. And people look to you for the calm and the storm, but you've got to take care of yourself first so that you show up for others best.
What an incredible panel. Can I just say, it's no surprise that, we immediately found some common ground around being values driven in order to truly create value across the enterprise, across the full supply chains in which we operate. And just, I think you're picking up on it, but I think at least 3 of us hail from Chicago, even though we are not living there currently. We've got those roots and common ground, and we've got Laura in North Dakota, and so you'll hear a lot about this kind of Midwest sensibility, work hard and do right by others, and it's been really refreshing. So, okay, we're going to get into this. I think I'll start with you, Beverly, because you just talked about a little bit, but I want to unpack some more. You've been known to be referred to by this endearing moniker, and that is corporate auntie, and sort of a Gen Z whisperer, and really helping leaders of all kinds at all stages of their career to really thrive. And so, you talked about it a little bit, but I guess what's one thing an organization can do to better support and retain specifically female talent, African American female talent, Gen Z, and what role does your leadership play in holding those organizations accountable? And again, this can be various roles. You've lived a storied career. You've worked across all sorts of industry verticals. You've made those pivots from digital to mobile to social and all sorts of transformation. But in the moment we're in, what's a takeaway for every organization out there on how they can better support and retain women?
Such a great question and an important issue for us at this moment in time. There are a couple of things that make this subject really important to me. I work at Zillow. We are what we call a cloud HQ. So there isn't a headquarters, there isn't an office, everyone's remote. I live here in Las Vegas. Part of my leadership team lives in Chicago. Some of them live in San Francisco, others live in Seattle, in New York. And so when you're attempting to build trust and accountability and create growth opportunities for folks, you do need to be intentional about who's in your circle. there is not a greater time than to do two important things. It is not just enough for you to make sure that there is a seat at the table, but it needs to be not on a little cardboard chair, or it needs to not be on the folding chair. We need to give people an opportunity to sit at the table in the big chair to make big decisions. Leaders cannot be in competition with their teams. Gen Z is relying on us more than ever before to help guide them through their careers, because for all of them, this is different. They haven't seen this place. This time is new for them. And so some of us, like, I've sort of seen this before. I could tell you how this story is going to end. And when it's over, what I'd like to do is to make sure that there are proud, comfortable, confident leaders who care about people in the place to precede me. When it is your time to move on, be available to mentor them. And then I've said this multiple times, I always get in trouble. I'm going to take the F-bomb out of it this time. But when you have an opportunity to pay women what they're worth, pay them what they're worth. Like, just do it. Like, somebody is your wife, your mother, your daughter, your niece, pay them. Because the one thing that I hate having to do is to go through the compensation cycle where I'm having to make special consideration for poor comp ratios for the young women in the ecosystem. And I just believe that starts when all of us are in leadership positions, are not just making sure that we're getting paid, because I like money too, but to make sure that we're taking care of those teams and those folks coming behind us.
Yeah, and all of that's happening against a massive backdrop of cost pressures and technological change, and none of that context is lost on us. So shifting into change and complexity, I'll turn to you, Kate. And I know in your role with Starcom as a chief client officer, operating in the Publicis environment, you talk a lot about connectivity. So what's kind of the core challenge that you're facing within your organization, and we're at CES, so how is data and technology kind of contributing to that challenge, and sort of what practical advice do you have for how you're navigating change and what we can do to overcome?
Sure. It's a great question, especially for where we are today, but I do believe that the most complex challenge that we're dealing with is our people. That we really need to equip our people with the tools, the resources, the navigation, the mapping to know how to connect resources or solutions that are either internal, that are external in the marketplace, to truly understand what our clients need. They're people too. They have complex challenges, and that's really our job as a service partner, as a truly a business partner, is to help them navigate those challenges too. We're going to have, I think someone said the only constant is change. I think that was the last panel, but the only constant is change, and so is the people. And that's truly, we're going to be at the heart of everything that happens around us. So at Starcom, we really want to make sure that when we work with our clients, and especially our internal teams, that we're truly that North Star that's helping everyone navigate all these different options and areas that, that you can be resourced with. It can be overwhelming, but to really make it simple.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, Laura, your third CES as an exhibitor with so much going on. I loved our prep conversation for this. We've talked a lot about being a heart-centered leader, and I want to give you some space to share a couple of the exciting announcements that were made this week when it comes to thinking about how you're evolving your customer experience and really leveraging technology with a balance on a long-term view and the value set around innovation and humanity, and keeping that full perspective in mind, not just making it about the technology, but making it more about, I think the notion of servant leadership has come up. So talk to us about what's going on with Bobcat and the job site companion, and all of how you're balancing the consumer needs and your business customer needs to capitalize on this technological revolution we're in.
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, Bobcat equipment is at the core in place to help people get work done. We started our business almost 70 years ago because someone had a need. They had a need to clean out their barns. They had a need for a small piece of equipment. It's that simple. But as time has gone on, products get more complex, just like our cars, just like our home electronics, and so we are really embracing AI and autonomy and different technology to help our customers do their work more quickly, more productively, and better. And so we are excited to launch several innovations this week, including Job Site Companion, which is voice activated control of our machines. So whether you're a weekend warrior and you're going out to work in your backyard, moving some trees, doing some dirt moving, mowing lawns, getting you up and running as quick as possible, and then also taking those very complex activities that our more seasoned customers do, and giving them the break to be able to maybe keep the machine moving, optimizing for the conditions with the products that they're using, but do it just like, think about if you're in a Waymo or if you're driving a Tesla or a product that does so much more for you. We're putting that technology in our customers' hands because we want to continue to help them do more. And one of the things we hear an awful lot about with AI is you're going to replace jobs, right? You're going to replace people. And we're trying to help customers do more with what they have, because operating our equipment, taking down homes, we're doing flood recovery, we're doing hurricane recovery. Being able to do that with more machines and less people is really important. It's not about getting rid of the people. It's about helping to help our communities more quickly, helping our people more quickly, really putting them in the driver's seat to be able to give back and also help their communities and their families prosper.
Yeah, I think what you're pointing to is that technology is really raising the bar, but it's not removing the responsibility. And as chief marketers in our roles, we are absolutely look to drive that kind of harmony and balance of responsibility. So I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to turn to you, Lisa, and I think marketing leaders have more influence than ever today, and yet we're still having often to fight to be heard and to kind of cut through in our organization. So my question for you is, what actually earns influence in the room? Talk about your experience at Magnum, and how are you framing decisions so that they land with your CEO, your CFO, and that you're getting the support and respect that you need to appreciate marketing's role as an igniter of growth for the organization?
The decisions need to always be rooted around the consumer, the customer, right? That essentially results in top line growth, that results and drives better profit. I think within the world of packaged goods, marketing is actually quite central to a lot of the conversations. So the seat at the table that we have is actually quite influential, but it's the way you show up. I think there's an element from a leadership perspective of having the expertise potentially outside of areas that are maybe not your comfort zone. So the ability to keep up in supply chain conversations of why you need to drive investments in factories, what are the capabilities that you need on the lines in order to be able to innovate, in order to be able to support your core, to really get into the room with the engineers around the table and be able to appreciate their skill sets is important, and I think drives a lot of credibility from a marketing standpoint. Same thing goes to R&D. I mean, these people are making ice cream at the end of the day, so everyone wants to have a conversation about that.
We thank you for that.
Yes.
Yes.
But there is, without a doubt, an element of course, chemistry and nutrition and food science. But the ability to partner with R&D differently, where you talk to them about the next 5 years, the next 10 years, and how do you bring the vision and the trend into their craft, also really elevates your credibility, around the table at the end of the day. So I think that's really where, within the world of packaged goods, CMOs have a critical role to play to be a truly sort of dynamic, multi-talented, skill set based. I think where we still continue to have some of the tougher conversations is when it comes to brand stewardship. There's certain brands, and we have beautiful brands in the portfolio, Klondike, Breyers, Popsicle, Good Humor, where there's an element of you got to be in it for the long game. And so I think, especially in the world of technology, instant gratification, optimization of campaigns within a week or two, everybody wants to invest, optimize, and see the lifts. And sometimes awareness and saliency and brand love and building that relationship and that loyalty with your consumer requires multiple years, and is truly an investment into market development capability as opposed to just instant gratification. So I think this is where the conversations continue to sort of harness and become a bit more challenging when it comes to brand stewardship and investing in the long-term game.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what you're getting at is the role of influence and how you're using empathy and instinct and navigating those difficult conversations to stay the course, depending on the kinds, rather than optimize to a KPI as much as everyone wants their bonuses and whatnot to really kind of do what's right for the longer term. So I'm going to open it up to all of you, really any of you, but was there a moment in your career where you realize that it wasn't your title, but how you were able to garner and create influence in order to unlock those kinds of tough decisions?
I'll start. I think for a while I led marketing, social comms here at MGM Resorts in Las Vegas. And so the Aria, Bellagio, Excalibur, Luxor, Park MGM, MGM Grand Mandalay Bay, all the ones.
She's been our backstage pass.
I mean, it's my neighborhood. Welcome to my hood. But sitting with my CEO and the chairman of the board and being invited into the room in like investor day summaries and having him say, represent the brand and represent marketing in a way that will matter to these investment bankers was an unlock for me that's so relevant to the work that I do here now at Zillow, and being able to speak marketing that is translatable to my CEO and my CFO so that they get why we're asking for the resources. They get why we're measuring and we're changing and why we're trying to drive impact in a way that is most meaningful. For me, that was the greatest unlock, and being invited into that room by a CEO and a chairman of the board really helped me maintain and sustain the courage and the confidence to be able to do that at the next level and to have those conversations in meaningful ways.
Yeah, the idea that influence shows up when the answers aren't obvious. What about you guys? Any build on that, just in terms of, influence not so much being about the title that you hold, but how you show up and operate?
Well, I'll just share a funny story, I guess.
Yeah.
I was early-ish in my career. This was about 10, 12 years ago. Actually, it was 12 years ago. I was having my second child, and I was going through that moment of, I don't know if I can continue to be on this corporate ladder. I don't know if this is for me. And my boss at the time, she was lovely, but she said, I can't cover your maternity leave again. I'm out. She peaced out. She left. We're still friends, but I was like, whoa. And then I was promoted to run a region at a large holding company for my division when I had a week left until I was going to have a baby. And that was a moment where I was in this crossroads of, do I take a step back? Do I keep going? Do I take on this big initiative? And what I realized is the organization had trust and faith, and they were committed to me to take on those big opportunities. And it really helped me come back and be committed and be ready to go in that position. So I say, a lot of times we don't think that we're ready, but others do. And, it's good to follow their lead sometimes, even if you think you can't.
That's great.
I think for me, as much, it's not the title, but in my world, it's being a female. And I loved, Beverly, your analogy of the cardboard seat in the corner. I've been a firm believer of if there's not a seat at the table, bring your own. And so I've operated like that in a male-dominated industry, and I push my way in politely sometimes and impolitely other times. You do what you need to do. But the reason I say that was a way that I was a leader differently than based on the title is because we have a lot of up-and-coming Gen Zers, females and males who see that and they're inspired, and they think, wow, how can I learn from that, and how can I get a seat at the table and be part of a conversation? I think females bring a very different perspective. A little bit maybe more, at least in the marketing world, a little bit more of the right brain side, and there's an emotional capacity that we can bring to the table. And so when I can show others that that's important, and I can show them that it's worth the push, and it's worth sometimes having to make one of those difficult moves to literally show up in a room. I mean, it's not always as just an analogy. Sometimes you literally have to get in the room. So for me, that's a really big one.
Yeah, I appreciate your candor.
I think the minute you show up outside of your title, you become a leader. And it doesn't matter what your function is across the board or what level you're at. I think when you take the responsibility of connecting with people and becoming someone they look to, that is when you become a leader, whether you're a CMO or any other title within the organization. Particularly what we're going through right now with massive transformation, becoming a standalone $8 billion company. It's all very exciting, but it's also all very undefined and very uncertain. And I think, yes, change is very constant, and as much as people can accept that, when they feel it differently. And so what we've been talking about in the conversations we've been having in the room, doesn't matter what your title is understanding how is that affecting people across different functions. We always talk about consumers and their demand states and their emotional state of minds, but we don't talk about our employees as consumers or understanding their demand states. And so the conversations we're having now is for our procurement team who has to come to the table and negotiate. You no longer have the power of Unilever to negotiate. What does that look like now for you? How is this making your job more difficult? For our sales organization, it's very exciting to now focus on just one category. But again, you no longer have the clout of Unilever. How is this making some of your conversations with retailers more difficult? For our marketers who are getting to redefine everything, and it's actually very exciting, how do you make sure to keep them on course a bit? So the ability to see people for who they are and just see the humanity in people makes you a leader no matter what your title is.
I love that. I've always been a big believer that leadership is a behavior. It is about leading. It is not a title whatsoever. And so just, I think to close us out, maybe two more things. One is, are there any conscious behaviors that you've learned to let go of over the years? Stop apologizing, and these kinds of this narrative that we hear constantly, bring your own seat to the table. It's true, it's sad. I mean, I'm a recovering ad exec, 30 years in a primarily male dominated industry, and have moved to private equity backed technology, which is a whole nother talk. But learning to let go of some of these, or making a conscious choice that have put you in a position. And maybe just to build on that, to kind of wrap up, is what advice would you give if you were just starting out in the business, knowing what you know now, knowing this moment we're in? What have you learned to let go of? And what advice would you have for your former younger self? And we'll just go right down the line, wrap us up. You go, Kate.
All right. My younger self, I was, super type A. Everything was a crisis. There's always going to be a crisis. There's always going to be a problem. And I think that's the thing I would tell my younger self is, you need to chill out. Don't take yourself so seriously, and have fun. Like we need to have fun in our jobs. I think that's the biggest thing is, there's always a problem to solve, but we should be having fun while we're doing it.
I love that. Imposter syndrome, right? I think I've learned that it can come on at any time. People are always going to tell you what they think about you, and the higher you go in the organization, the more they tell you, and the more oomph it feels like it has behind. So I think in just continuing to prepare myself as a younger entrant into the career market, it's important to know that you're not always going to be right, and you're not always going to do it the right way, and it's okay. And learn, and just keep getting back up and celebrating those wins and learning from the mistakes maybe along the way.
Super easy for me. I pretty much realized too late that I'm awesome and I should just be me more often.
Amen, corporate auntie.
And the other one is be brave. When you lead with fear, you live in fear, you exist in fear. So be brave, be kind, and be okay changing your mind and being wrong to learn some more.
That's hard to follow. The advice I would give my younger self is balance is a myth. Stop chasing it. Stop trying to find it. And that's okay. But I also truly believe you can have it all. And it's just a matter of a personal definition of what does having it all mean for you. And then the one behavior I'm still trying to change this is to stop taking things so personally. I think everybody works different, but there's something about the way we show up, and I'm all in, whether it's a CMO or a mom or a consumer. And so a lot of the times when things don't work, or a lot of the times when there's a little bit of criticism, I take it very personally, but that's just because of how invested we are in our work.
Thank you all so much for your thoughtfulness, your candor, your perspective. I hope everybody takes away that women who lead is not all about having the right answers. It's about showing up with influence and adaptability and impact, and you all do it in spades. So enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.